All right, now, everybody. Quiet, listen to me. We're going to start a show. Now, some of you people have been with me before. You know it's going to be a tough grind, but we're going to have a show.
Hey, good morning. It is the Mark Thompson Show. Mark is slowly but surely making his way back to us. But I have to say, before we do anything else, it is our founder's birthday. It is the Mark Thompson official birthday. Woo!
Happy birthday, Mark.
Yep, he is the day after Christmas. Absolutely. So happy birthday to Mark
That's
Thompson.
the worst.
Wherever in his world, the world he may be. I know, isn't it though? Because you know all of
As
his
a kid,
presents always said, you know,
this counts as Christmas,
whatever.
or this counts as your birthday, right?
Mm-hmm.
Ah.
Yeah, I don't know. But happy birthday, Mark Thompson, wherever you are in the world. And Mark Thompson will be officially back with the show starting in 2024. So we're dark on New Year's Day, and then he will be back the next day. But I got this message from him last night, Tony, and it said, I can't believe I'm traveling while the 49ers are playing on Christmas. You guys have to update the game.
Yep.
I thought, you want me to talk sports? Oh man. And then I thought, well, I got to bring in the expert, right? There's no way I can do this if I don't bring in the experts. And so then I call Rich Walcoff, my favorite sports guy, who makes even me interested in sports. And the next thing I know, I get a message from Mark. Never mind. Maybe you might not want to talk about the 49ers. It's really depressing. I don't even know. But it's too late. Rich Walcoff is among us. Let's bring him in and talk about what happened to the 49ers.
Oh, yeah. Well, that bag of coal in the Christmas stocking was delivered by the Baltimore Ravens, who were, I think, a little angry about being perceived as an underdog and not worthy in the eyes of some. Brock Purdy with the early coronation as the MVP favorite. And there was quite a reality check. I mean, Baltimore is the real deal, and the 49ers really played about as poorly as they could. And a lot of it was how good Baltimore is, and a lot of it is the injuries to the 49er offensive line and Brock Purdy being a little careless in critical moments. And it all added up to a thunderous, horrible day. But it's one day. It's one day.
It's one day. I know, but I read, Rich Walcoff, that this was supposed to be a precursor to the Super Bowl. Like, these are the two best teams, and this is going to be, you know, everybody took time on Christmas Day to turn on the TV, at least my family, to watch the 49ers, and then, is that really what the Super Bowl is going to look like?
Well, first of all, you hope the 49ers can get there and get back on track and have an opportunity. It was a kick in the teeth. It was a proverbial wake-up call or reality check, however you want to classify it. Hey, it kind of reminds me of 1994, the year the Niners last won a Super Bowl. It's almost 3 decades, believe it or not. 49ers got pounded by the Eagles 40-8 at Candlestick Park, the worst home loss in franchise history. That was the day that Steve Young and Jerry Reyes were taken out of the game and complaining about being shown up, and it was a disaster. And the Niners went on to win 10 of the last 11 and kick butt in the Super Bowl when Steve Young threw 6 touchdown passes in the rout of the Chargers in Miami. So you could say perhaps that was a little foreshadowing of better things to come. But if they don't get a healthy Trent Williams, a healthy Arik Armstead, get better play from Javon Hargrove, who missed the past couple of games with a groin injury, and he looked lost out there yesterday. Just didn't have he looked totally out of shape. And then they put Jason Verrett at cornerback, played for the first time all year, and he got schooled on a touchdown throw by Lamar Jackson, who is just a wizard. I mean, now he's the MVP favorite, but he is so elusive, even with a great pass rush that the Niners have intermittently. He escapes and creates and runs and throws, and Zay Flowers, the rookie speedster, makes them the favorite going forward.
No, Let's talk about Brock Purdy getting knocked out. You said he was careless. Is that all that was? And is he coming back, or and
Oh, he'll be.
once he was
Yeah.
knocked out of the game, was it over?
Well, the reason he stayed out with a stinger is they had a shuffled up offensive line and they had to become one dimensional late in the game, down by 18 points. So you didn't want to subject him to more punishment. Sam Darnold, bigger, stronger guy, and you figure that let him, take the hits. So a stinger is just a little bruised nerve in the neck. He'll probably be good to go in practice this week. Brock Purdy made a key mistake on the throw down the middle when the Niners were in the red zone. It was intercepted in the end zone, and he looked off the safety who kind of baited him and made an ill-advised throw. The others were tipped, and his arm was hit. There was a whole a bunch of reasons why he had the other interceptions. But the offensive line has always been a little less than the best aspect of this team. And when you lose Trent Williams, the best left tackle in football, to a groin injury late in the game, the Ravens had 4 sacks when Trent went out. They had to shuffle up the offensive line, and that, it's already not the strength of the team when fully healthy. And the Ravens were just pinning their ears back. They knew that it was no run threat. And, you got to question some of the Kyle Shanahan game calling too, because he didn't run the ball initially. They were throwing so effectively. But if they can't run the ball or don't run the ball, then the play action passing doesn't come into play. And that makes your team somewhat one-dimensional. And that's not the formula for winning against a very good defense like the Ravens, who lead the NFL in sacks and number 1 defense in scoring.
There was a moment where, and I don't know if this happens all the time, because you know me. I mean, I'm a fair weather fan. We'll just call it that. There was a moment where I think it was a Ravens player tripped over a referee.
Yeah.
Does that happen all the time? Because
No,
you never
that's
usually
right.
see that happen. I don't. Yeah.
Well, that was really rare. They were trying to run down Lamar Jackson, who was rolling out in the end zone, and he tripped over the official, who is actually in play. It's just one of those quirky, rarely seen things, but it's no way. You don't blow a whistle. It's just play on. And when you intentionally ground the ball in the end zone, that's a safety. And that's exactly what Lamar Jackson did. I don't think the official, was instrumental in the, in that play, because I think Lamar Jackson would have been stopped anyway. But nonetheless, it was really weird and highly unusual. But unfortunately, that was one of the few bright spots for the Niners. It was almost like the Philadelphia Eagles game in reverse, where things started so promising. Greg Kittle had 3 big catches early. Debo, Ayuk, they were rocking Christian McCaffrey. And then, Purdy hit the skids. And in Philly, it was the reverse. They started terribly and then were off to the races. Last night, the Ravens scored on 7 straight possessions, which is pretty much unheard of against the Niner defense that is as celebrated as it is. So that's quite the, as I say, the kick in the teeth, the gut punch, and the reality check. You got to be a little more dogged, a little more focused, intense, and precise in what you do on both sides of the ball, because that was better to happen in December than any other time. January playoff time, you don't have tomorrow. You're grabbing your golf clubs. But that was a beatdown.
Does that mean the 49ers, you think, are still Super Bowl bound, or are we just not going to say that? Don't jinx it.
Well, you can say it all you want. You got to do it and prove it.
Yeah.
And right now, I still think they're the best NFC team because who's the competition right now? Dallas is 7-0 at home, but if they meet in the playoffs, it'll be in San Francisco or at Levi Stadium. And we saw what the Niners did to them. That doesn't mean it will automatically be a rout in round 2. Yeah. But I think the Niners feel pretty confident. If they get Arik Armstead back, the big D tackle with a lingering foot injury, if Javon Hargrove can get his mojo back, if I guess Ombre Ambry Thomas, the cornerback, also tweaked a groin muscle. Not a good time to, come up with key injuries to starters on defense. And I must say that Steve Wilkes, the defensive coordinator, I don't think he mixed up his scheme well enough. They blitzed very infrequently early in the game. And I think you got to get after Lamar Jackson, even though he is so elusive. But if you allow him to set up and survey and then run out of trouble, you're asking for trouble. And Wilkes, I think, has been too conservative by my estimation and other observers. And the defense has been very solid. But if it's not working on a given day, I think you got to go to plan B. And he's not much for making in-game adjustments like some coaches do.
For a moment, it felt like an old 49ers post-game wrap-up on KNBR. That was pretty cool.
Well, I did that for 22 years, mostly on
Yeah.
KGO, and then last 5 years with Larry Kruger on KNBR.
KNBR,
It was
right.
those were
Yeah.
great days and glory days, and
Yeah.
the Niners are definitely in the hunt. But let's be real, they haven't faced the Miami Dolphins, they haven't faced the Buffalo Bills, they didn't face the Chiefs, who may be defending champs but not playing like it. So there's a lot of reasons why the 49ers have been kind of on a glory ride. The NFC is, I think, considerably weaker than the AFC. Most of those elite teams I mentioned in the AFC, and they lost to two of them, the Cleveland Browns and the Cincinnati Bengals,
Yeah.
and the Minnesota Vikings when they had Kirk Cousins. So they've got to go reassess some of their strategies and get some people healthy. Thankfully, they've got two very winnable games, these last two, home to the lowly Washington Commanders. No, excuse me, at Washington this Sunday, and then home to the Rams. The Rams may be playing for a playoff berth, so that won't be a cakewalk. But
Yeah.
nonetheless, if they take care of business these last two games, they'll get that all-important bye week, and only one team in each conference gets a bye week. And that's a week of rest when everyone else is banging the bejesus out of each other. And that's so critical. Whenever the Niners are winning Super Bowls, they were getting those bye weeks, and that is critical. You only have to win 2 games to get to the Super Bowl in the playoffs.
And the Raiders won too, I guess, yesterday.
Yeah. Well, the Chiefs, oh my goodness. I think they've lost 4 of 6 or 3 of 5. And a lot of it is the line play. You don't protect Patrick Mahomes. He makes mistakes, and he doesn't look like the invincible, electrifying player he's been for the better part of his 6 years in the league.
Yeah.
But it's hard to sustain that. They no longer have Tyreek Hill and Kareem Hunt. They lost a lot of key game-breaking wide receivers. And, the 49ers have the weapons. It's about employing them. And it all starts up front. The game of football is won and lost in the trenches. And the offensive line for the 49ers has got to get healthy, got to play better, because what they will face in the postseason, Dallas, Philadelphia, perhaps again, are very great pass rushing teams, and they are challenged there at best when healthy. So that's the big question mark for them.
My daughter yesterday said, the Chiefs are playing today too. I said, how do you know? She said, because Taylor Swift's going to the game.
There you go. Yeah, how about that
Yeah.
becoming just like she's got the tight end boyfriend Travis Kelce, and
Yeah.
I mean Taylor Swift, rock star extraordinaire, and I love it. It's just bringing more people to the game, and there's no downside to it for the NFL. They're just every minute of it. They're saying, "Bring it on! Let's find another sweetheart." Maybe Beyonce will find a boyfriend in the NFL.
Oh no, I'm already married. No can do.
Oh, okay. I didn't know.
Before I let you go back to the tennis game, can we talk about the Warriors?
Yeah, sure. Remember a month ago or so, I told you that I thought Klay Thompson should be, replace the starting lineup by Moses Moody. Well, bite my tongue, because Klay has found a reprieve and been playing much better of late. Still don't think he's in their long-term future, because he's a free agent at the end of the season and will want maximum deal. He makes $40 million plus a season now. The Warriors reportedly offered him half of that, but I just think it's time to move on. Nonetheless, the way the kids are playing, oh my goodness, Brandon Pajemski, Trace Jackson Davis, Jonathan Kuminga, Moses Moody, all three of these guys are puppies. And because of the injuries to Gary Payton III and Draymond Green's suspension, they're getting more time. And that has absolutely revitalized this team. And it makes them very fascinating, prospects going forward. I think they could, they still lack the big man to match Nikola Jokic and other big centers, the Joel Embiids in the world and Anthony Davises. But nonetheless, they have got depth and speed and athleticism and camaraderie and chemistry. It's encouraging. A lot of people, Charles Barkley, the leading cynic and critic of the Warriors, said, Bob Myers, the GM, left before the Titanic sank. Well, I think it was a premature sinking of the organization. They're not dead yet. They're not saying they're championship bound, but they are respectable and then some.
Rich Walcoff, thank you for helping me bring sports talk to the Mark Thompson Show. You're awesome.
Oh, my pleasure. It's a labor of love. It's the avocation-vocation collision,
Absolutely.
I don't do this for a living anymore, but it's still a passion that I think is in my soul. So anytime, I'd be happy to help you out.
Awesome. Thanks, Rich Walcoff. Go play some tennis.
I will. Thanks now. Okay. Enjoy.
Bye. Bye-bye. Happy New Year. Bye.
You say.
Rich Walcoff, everybody, from of KGO and KNBR fame and more. I think he actually started out his career in Los Angeles, so great to have him on the show. Okay, a couple of things I need to ask you, and then a story out of Colorado that it's embarrassing. I'll say it's embarrassing. Coming up on the show, Jefferson Graham is back from his trip to Japan. We'll check in with him on all things tech. David K. Johnston will be here. A lot of politics to ask him about. So that is something we will get to. Also, I do want to let you know that today is a Spare the Air day, both in Northern California and Southern California. It's going to be a week full of rain. We're going to get rain in Northern California, at least. I do know that. And then the South Coast Air Quality Management District in the Southern California area is saying wood burning restrictions that were issued on Christmas Day are now being extended as well. So no wood burning across the state is what we know. Okay, so let's get to this story. This crazy story about this governor of Colorado. I'm telling you, he decided to give a little holiday rendition of Feliz Navidad. Now, mind you, there is a migrant crisis going on in his state. Maybe not the best choice. Colorado Governor Jared Polis is his name. And he's decided that he's going to sing and dance for us. Let's take a look.
Feliz Navidad. Feliz Navidad. Feliz Navidad, prospero año y felicidad.
That's the governor of Colorado. Yeah. I mean, okay, maybe a little Christmas spirit, something, I don't know. But he's getting a lot of criticism for that. A lot of criticism. He had this holiday message coming as the state is struggling for resources. They're fighting this big immigration crisis. Denver just received 16 busloads of migrants. And so his joyful dancing to that and kind of wacky rendition is kind of being called cringeworthy, is what it's being called. I don't know. I mean, maybe you want your governor to have a little fun and put forth a little humor to the public. No. Some people are saying it's one of the worst things they've seen all year. Who walked into his office and said this was a good idea? Others said, no, he's pandering to the Latino community in his state. Others called it uncomfortable and ridiculous. Yeah. What was the purpose of it? Somebody wrote in Spanish. So I don't know. Yeah. Bad idea. Bad idea for Colorado Governor Jared Polis. No. if you could click the like button on the Mark Thompson Show while you're thinking of it, we appreciate it. Just a thumbs up gives us a jump in the YouTube algorithm game. So thank you for that. If you're here and you haven't subscribed, thank you for doing that as well. We love a good new subscription. So thank you for that. And I should tell you that we're at themarkthompsonshow.com. That's where the Patreon and PayPal links are located. And we always appreciate any help. Of course, today being Mark Thompson's birthday is always a great day to jump in and give. So thank you for that. I don't know if you, and I think hopefully you can rally this picture, Tony, but we have a actor that passed away, and I honestly, I have to be honest, wouldn't have known his name, but when I saw his face, I realized, God, he's been in a lot of things, and I recognized him right away. His name is Kamar de los Reyes, and he passed away at the age of only 56 after a short battle with cancer. He was a soap opera star, I think is how he started out on One Life to Live. He was in the Call of Duty Black Ops 2 video game. Yeah, he had a role in Sleepy Hollow, the TV show, The Rookie, CW's All American. I think I knew him from The Rookie and All American, but also he was in a lot of movies as well. He was in Oliver Stone's Nixon. He played one of the Watergate burglars. He was a Secret Service agent in Salt with Angelina Jolie. He was in The Cell with Jennifer Lopez. So it's been in a lot of movies as well. Yeah, he passed away at the age of 56 over the weekend after a short battle with cancer. So sad situation there. All right, let's talk about law and disorder. Should we do it, Tony? Yes, we should. Law and disorder.
In the criminal justice system, the people,
pimps, addicts, thieves, bums, winos, girls who can't keep an address, and men who don't care,
are represented by two separate yet equally important groups.
A cop, a flatfoot, a bull, a dick, John Law. You're the fuzz, the heat, you're poison, you're trouble, you're bad news.
These are their stories.
Let's start talking about this guy, this real winner, who apparently was bothering people aboard a BART train on Christmas Eve. So the police were called. They come out. They find 36-year-old Archie Hansberry of Oakland, and police say he had a concealed pistol grip AR-style rifle in his pants. What? Through the watchful eye, they say, of the frontline staff and the quick response by police officers, we were able to get this gun out of the BART system and the suspect off of our train. From the new fare gates to the increased police presence to speed up response times, BART is safe and working. That according to BART police. Well, how did a guy manage to bring an AR grip rifle on a BART train? That's what I want to know. You can spin it as safety, but I spin it as Lord knows who you're riding with. Man. This story out of Los Angeles or the Southern California area, there are 8 people that have been arrested for running a cocaine delivery service. Knock, knock. Flowers. Nope. Cocaine. Yes. 8 people taken into custody in connection with this wide-scale narcotics delivery service operating in parts of Southern California. Ventura County Sheriff's Office Narcotics Street Team making the arrest. They first learn of look at all the cocaine there, just a little cocaine for Christmas. They first learned of the delivery service operating in parts of Ventura and Los Angeles counties in July. A 5-month-long investigation finds a transnational drug trafficking operation was using an elaborate system of drivers and dispatchers to supply Ventura County residents with cocaine. Drug trafficking organizations like this, says the Ventura County Sheriff's Office, are structured to sell their drugs to as many customers and across as wide a geographical area as possible. They say traffickers tend to organize their operations in similar ways, employing a chain of command that ranges from delivery drivers all the way up to the cell head. They got them. They got 8 people. Multiple drivers were observed delivering drugs to multiple customers throughout Ventura County. Yeah, busted. 8 people. And they were all found, 5 of the 8 were found with a large possession of prepackaged cocaine that was ready to be delivered. Nope. They say they got a significant amount of it off the street. So that's good. Unfortunately for this San Bernardino County Sheriff's deputy, he was arrested for drug possession. He's a veteran with the San Bernardino County Sheriff's Department resigned after authorities found him high on drugs with a gun inside of a car with a former colleague. No. 32-year-old Jonathan Campos facing now 2 felony gun and narcotics charges. In mid-November, authorities got a tip that Campos and former San Bernardino County Sheriff's Deputy Ricardo Bears were involved in drug activity. Cops are doing the drugs. Narcotics detectives picked up the case. Investigators found the two sitting inside Bear's vehicle in an empty housing development in Hesperia. They say Campos was under the influence of a controlled substance, suspected of being cocaine. Although Campos was off duty at the time of the incident, he was in possession of a firearm. They say suspected cocaine and paraphernalia that indicated sales were located inside that vehicle. Drug paraphernalia found at one of the man's residences. Drug sale paraphernalia along with ammunition located at a residence as well. So both arrested, booked, and released on bond. Campos, though, was a 6-year veteran and was assigned to the Hesperia station of the San Bernardino County Sheriff's Department. And again, he resigned after his arrest. Never good when the cops are caught with drugs. Let's talk about this woman who was shot during the most bizarre circumstance. This is a pregnant Colorado mom hit with a stray bullet that just missed her sleeping 5-year-old daughter. She wakes up to say to her husband, "Babe, I just got shot." Scary. This woman was sleeping in her bed when she was hit by a stray bullet that narrowly missed her 2 young children. You can see the hole in the wall there. Crazy. She heard gunfire and she felt a sharp pain in her side. She said, "My husband was sleeping next to me. He got up and he was like, 'Did you hear that?' Because it was so loud." And I just looked at him and I was like, "Babe, call 911. I just got shot." Look at that. Sleeping in your bed 1 minute, shot in the shoulder the next. 27-year-old mom rushed to the hospital. Doctors found the bullet lodged in her shoulder, but because she's 16 weeks pregnant, doctors decided to leave the bullet in her rather than place her under anesthesia for surgery. Investigators from the Aurora Police Department in Colorado said the bullet may have struck her after traveling hundreds of feet over a green belt behind her family's home. Talk about being in the wrong place at the wrong time. They found the bullet hole in the house right there. You can see inches from where her children aged 5 and 6 have been sleeping. The bullet first went through the kids' room, missing her daughter's head by a foot, and then went through her room, through her closet, and into her pregnancy pillow, where it hit her in the shoulder. She said she believes the pregnancy pillow is what saved her life because it changed the bullet's trajectory after it hit her. Crazy story, man. There's security footage from a neighbor's home recorded at least 8 gunshots that morning. She said, "I don't think I was targeted. I don't think this was intentional, but I think people need to know when a gun is shot, that bullet goes somewhere." Right? Where? Well, in this case, right into her shoulder. She said, "Luckily, it missed my children and my baby and my dog and my husband, but it ended up in my arm," which she said, I think is actually the best case scenario considering what could have happened. That's a mom for you. She's like, "I'll take the bullet to the shoulder. Best case scenario, bring it to me." Yeah, but it's still pretty scary and sucks. There's a pregnant mom. She has to now go through her pregnancy with a bullet in her shoulder. That's a new one. Man. All right, let's do a little bit of news. What do you say, Tony? We'll do some news, get to some news of the bizarre, and then we have Jefferson Graham and David K. Johnston coming up.
Let me play the law, disorder, close, and then we go to that, right?
Let's do that. Let's do that. Sorry.
Formats. Mark is gonna call us if we don't.
Tune in again next time for more Law and Disorder on the Mark Thompson Show.
All right, that's it. Let's roll. Hey, let's be careful out there.
Oh no, getting ahead of myself. Yes, we must finish one thing before we start another. All right, how about a little bit of news?
Sounds good. Here we go.
Yeah. Let's get you caught up. News of the day. A key advisor to Israel's prime minister is in Washington for high-level meetings today. Israeli Minister of Strategic Affairs Ron Dermer is expected to discuss the war in Gaza with senior White House officials and members of Congress. The visit coming as the U.S. continues to press Israel to scale back its military operations in Gaza. Nation's airports so busy as millions of holiday travelers head home or board flights to New Year's destinations. At last check, FlightAware reported about 3,700 delays and fewer than 100 cancellations. This year's travel period between Christmas and New Year's is expected to be the second busiest since 2019. Police in Denver stepping up security for the Colorado Supreme Court after last week's ruling that disqualified former President Trump from the state's 2024 primary ballot. The Denver Police Department said it's investigating threats against the justices and is providing extra patrols around their homes. The FBI also investigating those threats. Well, people doing some after Christmas bargain hunting will have plenty of company. Retailers say today is the second busiest shopping day of the year, second only to Black Friday. 57% of those surveyed in American Express polls say they plan to hit the mall post-Christmas looking to buy gifts for themselves. Speaking of holidays, today marks the start of Kwanzaa. The week-long celebration of African American culture was created in 1966. It is a non-religious holiday based on harvest festival traditions from Africa. Kwanzaa celebrated through January 1st, and it culminates in a communal feast. So happy Kwanzaa to everybody. The newly appointed executive director of the California Commission on Asian and Pacific Islander Affairs is Khadija Alam. Alam and her family immigrated from Pakistan in the mid-90s and settled in Hollister. She worked at various Sacramento-based state and advocacy organizations as well. She says she wants to tackle issues impacting Asian and Pacific Islander communities, focusing on anti-Asian hate, Islamophobia, and anti-Semitism. So this is happening in California. The top Biden administration officials will travel to Mexico as migrants are crossing the southern border in record numbers. The Secretary of State, Department of Homeland Security Secretary, and White House Homeland Security Advisor will hold a meeting with the President of Mexico on Wednesday discussing urgent actions the two countries can take to address the border challenges. The Biden administration is facing criticism on both sides of the aisle. There's been a record number of illegal crossings, so they have to do something. California Governor Gavin Newsom pushing back on members of his own party, calling to remove Donald Trump from the 2024 ballot. Governor Newsom said in a statement, California says we can defeat candidates at the polls. It doesn't need to take them off the ballot. Everything else is a political distraction, he said. Late last week, Lieutenant Governor Eleni Kounalakis prompted Secretary of State Shirley Weber to investigate all legal options in light of the Colorado Supreme Court ruling banning Trump from the ballot there based on violations of the 14th Amendment clause. Others have asked the Attorney General, Rob Bonta, to use his powers to decide if Trump was eligible to appear on the California ballot as well. It's being explored in a number of states across the country. All right, let's talk about what's going on at the box office. The Color Purple coming off a huge Christmas opening day. That film made $18 million yesterday, marking the second biggest Christmas Day opening of all time. Two other films opened on Christmas, including George Clooney's The Boys in the Boat, which made more than $5 million yesterday, and the Adam Driver-led Ferrari, which only netted just under $3 million in its first day in theaters. And this report is sponsored by Coachella Valley Coffee. Check them out at CoachellaValleyCoffee.com. You might still be able to get a hold of the holiday blend. So good. CoachellaValleyCoffee.com. And it's great at the end when you pop in your super exclusive discount code and get your 10% off. It's Mark T altogether, Mark T. Get your 10% off. You can get your coffee for the new year. I like the tea. I gave some tea to my mom and sister for Christmas, and they really loved it as well. So check it out, CoachellaValleyCoffee.com. I'm Kim McAllister. This is The Mark Thompson Show.
Albert, it's the end of the year, and we reflect back on a year where we have begun this project, and now it's matured to a place that you have to be like a proud papa. You know, you're one of the big forces as part of this show.
Yeah, I set that bar pretty low, though, to be honest, and I think we've significantly surpassed that bar. So I think I might have to reflect on this new year.
Oh yeah,
how high that bar should be set.
you may bring the bar down even lower in the new year, is what you're saying? Yeah.
I mean,
Albert, thank you.
We made it pretty tough for ourselves here, Mark. 18,000 subscribers, and who knows how many we'll have for next year.
Yeah. It's kind of interesting because most people set a bar higher for themselves in the new year. They have those resolutions, So you'll show up earlier, focus harder, be more enterprising. Those are none of the things that really apply in your case, do they?
I mean, it's kind of depressing when you don't reach that bar. So when you actually do surpass that bar, it's a lot more encouraging person.
I see. So you're kind of emotionally cocooning yourself from any failure is what you're doing.
Exactly. I like to shield myself from the burdens of not
Albert, thank you.
Failing expectations. As a huge sports fan, we all have huge expectations, and I'd like to not be disappointed in myself like I am for my sports teams, Mark.
Albert, Happy New Year, and thanks for everything.
Yep, it is the Mark Thompson Show. Let's get right to it. We've got Jefferson Graham waiting in the wings. Let's bring him on. Jefferson Graham here to talk tech, and we'll talk about what's going on with this new Apple Watch. Jefferson Graham, welcome to the Mark Thompson Show.
Thank you. Good to see you.
Good to
So all I see is your logo. Oh,
here it is.
There
Here it is.
you are.
Yay! So how was the trip to Japan, first of all?
The trip to Japan was really good. It was the second trip of 2023 and even better than last time. The weather was great in the beginning, then it got a little nippy.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, you're back safely. That's good. Happy New Year to you.
Thank you. I have lots of new Japan videos at photowalkstv.com, youtube.com/photowalkstv. Go check them out. The neon light show is out of this world.
Wonderful. We'll put that up there at the bottom of the screen. So let's get right into it. Let's talk about this Apple Watch because it was for sale. Now it's not for sale, and it has to do with what the blood pressure feature. Is that right?
Yeah, it's a licensing dispute. Company whose name I do not recall. I know it starts with an M, but anyway, they claim they had the rights to it, and Apple didn't. Apple disagreed, and for the first time that I can ever remember, Apple had to pull a product off the market, a really successful product that's only available from the Apple Store. You can still buy it at Best Buy and a few other places, but not for long. And the ending to the story, which is that at some point Apple's going to have to pay the piper, and there's just no way around it.
Why don't they just pay them instead of pulling it off the market?
You would have thought. Now, and why didn't the studios make a deal with the actors sooner? And why didn't they make a deal with the writers sooner? So it all comes down to money, and Apple will be paying, obviously, because they're not going to pull this product off the market. They said, many analysts have said that they would try to come up with a software fix to get around it, but I don't know how you do that. So
Massimo is the name of the company. Massimo. Yeah.
Yeah. I think by the beginning of the year, you will see a definite solution. I'd say, what's the worst thing that could happen to a company is pulling a hot product off the market 3 days before Christmas. But, this is a blip in Apple's world. 50% of all their sales come from the iPhone. 10% of them come from services, which is iCloud storage and movie service and music and stuff like that. And so this is a blip, but they will be paying it. There's just no doubt. Well,
they're going to court over it. And they're also Massimo is accusing Apple of hiring away its employees, stealing this Pulse Ox technology and incorporating it into the Apple Watch, stealing their employees. That's kind of like corporate espionage, right?
Well, I think it happens all the time as the people leave and then they take people. Could they rejigger this watch and take the blood pressure thing out of it? Yeah, they could do that. I mean, there's a lot of things they could do. I don't think that people are buying an Apple Watch for the blood pressure. They're buying it because it's a cool product. It looks great and it does a bunch of different things. And I think they could live without the blood pressure. The question is, how much is the settlement?
Yeah.
But at some point, by mid-January, now that the Biden administration has refused to intercede, I really think there'll be there'll be a solution.
Well, as this is not all from Apple, they have something called the Vision Pro headset they're coming out with. Is this kind of like Meta's VR goggles or what?
Well, it's a $3,500
Oh,
goggle that
yeah.
they announced last year and said it would be out at some point in early 2024, and they got rave reviews for it. I never tried it. I'm not excited about it because I don't want to wear a headset for much longer than 10 or 15 minutes. So to spend $3,500 on something like this is, astronomical. It may look great, it may be wonderful, but gosh, Kim, when you walk into your living room and you see your kids sitting there with these headsets on for
No.
hours and hours and hours, how are you going to feel, right?
What does it do? Is it just a virtual gaming device?
It's more than gaming. So like you could do your birthday party video and then it will come to life. It's 3D to the next level. It just brings, it just is very high resolution, showing you things in a way that you would never see in real life. And it's called spatial video is how they're referring to it. And you could actually film spatial video on the iPhone now. You just can't do anything with it. You could do travel videos. You could listen to music or watch music videos. And of course, you can play games too.
You know that difference between when you videotape something and it never quite looks like reality? Is that the difference here? The spatial video, is that what it creates?
Well, I think it would be heightened reality, right?
Okay.
It just, you're looking at a birthday party video and the bodies just don't look flat, but they look alive. I guess it brings them almost to a video game, but it's not really a video game. Should be great, but $3,500, I know you're not going to spend
I'm not buying that. No, absolutely not. No can do.
Okay, so $3,500, no. $2,500, no. $2,000, no. $1,500, no. $1,000, no. $500,
maybe. Even then, it's questionable as to whether I need this or not.
Right.
You'd have to make a case.
If you don't like my Ray-Ban glasses, you're not going to like.
No.
Right. In fact, I just made a video. I was just doing it before we came on here, and I did it in front of the mirror so that I could be in the video. And I'm nodding a bunch, and I nodded a lot more than I thought, and it was kind of jerky. So when you make those videos, you have to learn. These are the Facebook Meta glasses that you click a button and you can record on, and you have to learn to keep your head still. Otherwise, your footage is going up and down and right and left.
But when you're in a part of a normal conversation, you're moving your head, you're agreeing with the person, or you're like, no. So yeah, it's natural to move.
Yeah. So it's another thing I have to learn.
So now if I see somebody in a conversation who's just sitting there stiff as a board, I'll think, do they have those glasses on? Are they recording?
Well, of course, you'll see the white button. The white button on there. I meant to bring the glasses with me to Japan, and I pulled it out of my bag for a second, and then I zipped the bag up, and I I was so upset because I wanted to actually give the glasses to my son who lives in Japan because I thought he'd have a lot of fun with them. And so when I got there, I said, well, I'll just buy another pair. And there was a Ray-Ban store there, but they don't sell the glasses in Japan. And even if I mailed him the glasses, and he would have to then connect it to his Facebook, which is not going to work because it's a US only product. So there you go. Some of the things we don't think about.
What's AP pin?
It's a misspell.
Okay.
It's an AI pin.
AI pin. You sent me this note. Let's talk about the AP pin, and I'm like, I don't know what that is. Associated Press? Is it something newsworthy? Do I need to know?
It's called Humane, and they use audio and video signals to tell you what's going on. $700. You wear it, and they see it as the next step past the phone. I did an article 10 years ago where an analyst said that the phone would be gone within 7 to 10 years. And I said, that seems pretty optimistic. And I would even say, okay, so now we're in 2024. Will the phone go away in 24? No. 2030, will it be gone? No. 2035? No, I don't think so. I don't think it's ever going anywhere. How about
So
you, Kim?
why no? I mean, I don't. They say eventually that we're just all going to have a chip, and we won't need our phone because the chip inside of our eye or whatever will do everything the phone needs to do. Isn't that like the sci-fi movie version of what's going to happen?
Okay, but how do we make a phone call? Do I just say, "Hey, Chip, make a call," right?
Or you would
Yeah,
just bring up the video version of the person. Yeah.
yeah. Or
And you,
we don't make calls anymore. We just text, and
yeah,
I just send you an audio text.
yeah,
But
probably.
Tony's doing a great job of getting B-roll for us today, huh?
Yeah, look at that. So instead, they want us to wear this pin like a brooch or what?
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I think it's going to be very, very minor market as opposed to mass market.
And
But, you know, who
the pin
knows?
does what? We talk to the pin and it tells us what we need to know.
Yes. And
Is this
shows us with light things to explain things.
is this the pin that you wear? Because I was talking to Robert Scoble and he was saying that there will be things that we wear that, if you're in a meeting, say, and you say something inappropriate or sexist or racist or what have you, the AI pin that you're wearing will tell you in your ear, what you just said is not socially appropriate. You need to apologize and correct yourself. Is that what that is for, the pin?
Sure. I don't know. I hadn't heard that.
Oh, okay.
I
I
hadn't
don't
heard
know.
that.
I can't
But
imagine wearing one of these, but I guess maybe if you had issues with knowing what's appropriate and what's inappropriate, it would be
yes,
helpful.
but somebody might say to you, "But Kim, who are you to decide what's appropriate and inappropriate? Who is the thought police here, and who is making those decisions?"
Well, I mean, maybe if it's pretty obvious, I think we're all qualified to, I mean, if someone uses the N word in the office, it's kind of okay. That's cut and dry,
Well,
right?
yes. I mean, that's kind of
Yeah.
yeah. Okay. But
If someone says,
if
sleep with
they
me or
don't
lose your
know,
job, I don't know.
if they don't know,
Yeah.
they don't need a pin to tell
Yeah.
them. Yeah.
If they have to have a pin, there's a larger problem going on, right? I
Yeah.
don't know. Okay, new smartphone software updates are coming out. So I guess it makes our phone more or less susceptible to theft, or that's the hope.
Well, for the iPhone, iOS 17.2 is the
Okay.
software update. They put in something to make it harder for thieves to steal our phones. Instead of just typing in the passcode, which they've gotten very good at stealing, it has to have Face ID as well. And
Oh.
if your phone ends up in a unusual location that Apple is not accustomed to seeing it, then they will lock it and not allow you to change the passcode for at least 1 hour, which should give you time to make the phone dead, because you could do that remotely.
How do you make the phone dead?
I don't know, but I know that
We've never had to do that before, but we
I've
can.
never done it. I think you get in contact with your carrier.
Oh, and they just
But
turn everything
a
off.
lot of people have done it. I've never had the opportunity to do it, but that's a really good question. And
Interesting.
I need a newsletter topic for tomorrow, and now I've got it.
Maybe that's it. Exactly. All
Now I've
right.
got it. Thanks to
Any
Kim.
any big plans for the new year?
Yeah, I made a list yesterday of all the places I want to travel to, and
Okay.
let's see if I can get there. And uh, yeah, so and I do also do a podcast called the iPhone Photo Show, and I just got a thing from Spotify telling me that the most listened to episode of the year was the one that you were on. Did you know that?
No, really?
Yeah, we did a YouTube live, and I actually ran the soundtrack, the
Okay.
audio as the podcast, and that the most people listen to, what do I have to do to make my iPhone photos look better?
Okay, well, very good. Glad to have been a part of it and hope to
Thank
be
you.
part of more in 2024. Happy New Year to you, Jefferson Graham. Thank you for being on the Mark
Thank you.
Thompson Show.
Okay.
Absolutely. Oh, we're looking at these
Bye-bye.
great pictures. I think these are the pictures you took in Japan.
Yeah,
Wow.
of the greatest neon light show in the world.
Wow.
Better than Las Vegas, better than Tokyo. It's all in Osaka.
That's cool. Love your videos. Photo
Thank you.
Walks TV. You can find Jefferson Graham on Photo Walks TV right here on YouTube. Check out the show. Great pictures, great tips as well. Thank you, Jefferson Graham.
Thank you.
Bye. Have a great rest of your day. Yay. All right, let's do a little news of the bizarre. Coming up, David K. Johnston on the Mark Thompson Show. So let's jump into this news of the bizarre. We don't have an opener for this one, but trust me, it's worth it anyway. Right, Tony? Yeah, it is.
Yes.
What are you going to say?
Ready.
No, Kim, I don't
Nope.
think so.
Just
actually
stop talking.
stopped.
We're done.
Before we get into it, though, I do want to have some people to thank. And that is Cindy, who jumps in with a $5 super sticker. Love 4-day weekends, chance to both rest and get stuff done. Thank you for working this week. Absolutely, Cindy. Mark coming back on the 2nd of January 2024. I will say today is Mark Thompson's birthday. So we have that to celebrate as well. Thank you for the $5 birthday present for Mark. Really nice. All right, now some news of the bizarre. Here it is. That's right. Okay, so let's start with this strange picture of seats, old metal seats, washing up on a beach in New Jersey. Where did they come from? That's weird. It's a set of rusted out metal seats that washed right up on this New Jersey beach. And they think they probably came loose from a rail car that was used to make an artificial reef. So somehow this row of seats was loosened and then got out of the rail car, got out of the reef, the artificial reef, and then floated right ashore. A local resident there posted a series of videos showing this row of 4 rusted out seats that he found on a beach in Margate. They thought they might have been airplane seats from a crash, but no, the Margate police say they appear to have been less tragic in origin. They say their seats are too heavy to come from anything like a plane. So they think that it was from a loose rail car that was dropped into the water to create the Point Lookout artificial reef along the southern shore of Long Island. The seats are stripped down to the metal, nothing left from the cushions, just the metal parts. The seat belts or buckles that would indicate they came from a plane are not there. So the detectives got involved. They did some research. They found these decommissioned rail car seats are usually stripped down to just the metal parts, taken out to sea, and dumped to help build artificial reefs. That's what happened. Yeah. Let's talk about this tiny little bear. This teeny tiny bear they was found in Arizona, and wildlife experts say they're stumped about this abnormally small bear cub. He weighs only 15 pounds and he's nearly a year old. They say that's not quite normal, but he also seems perfectly healthy. So what's going on? Bearizona Wildlife Park saying on social media the cub was rescued from a Tucson neighborhood last week, but experts at the Arizona Game and Fish Department were pretty surprised by how tiny he is. He weighs 15 pounds, again, just a year old. Bear cubs in the United States are all born close to January or February, so this guy should be about 70 pounds this time of year. But no, he's only 15 pounds. And they can't quite figure out what's going on with him. They say he should be much heavier than this. They don't know if this bear got separated from its mother. How did this bear, they say, get all the way off the mountain? They don't know. They thought the bear this size would have been picked off by a predator, maybe a coyote or a mountain lion or even another bear. But this bear appears perfectly comfortable around human beings. They say they'll never know the whole story, but if someone illegally fed this cub for months, it could explain his comfort around humans, and it also might explain why he's so small. They say he has elf-like stature, and his rescue so close to Christmas leaves Bearizona staff to name him Buddy, like Buddy the Elf. So, yeah, little teeny tiny guy. So weird. Maybe they found a new bear species. I don't know. How about this one? This is a new one. Here's something you don't see every day. It's a hand grenade in a dog poop bag. What? Yeah. You can't even. This happened in Oregon. Hey, that's not what you want to see in your dog poop bag if you want to see anything in there. Police in Oregon say this object that appeared to be a hand grenade turned out to be a dispenser for dog poop bags. Oh, yeah. The McMinnville Police Department saying in a Facebook post the item of concern was spotted near the running track at Patton Middle School, away from school buildings. Students were kept inside while police consulted with the Oregon State Police Bomb Squad. The department used a drone to get up close-up photos of the apparent hand grenade while keeping the staff at a safe distance. After reviewing the photograph, the item was determined to be a dog waste bag dispenser that is manufactured to resemble a hand grenade. Who makes this stuff? The item was removed from school property and regular school activities resumed once again. Really? Way to cause all that problem. I'm telling you. I mean, that's what you want hanging off your purse or your belt, is what looks to be a hand grenade. Come on. All right. Lastly, this might be some cute video associated with this one. This little fox keeps swiping cameras from an Arizona backyard. Yeah, there you can see. He has done it more than once. Surveillance footage showed the thief who stole the backyard camera was four-legged and fluffy-tailed and a fox. Esmeralda Egarula of Tucson, noticing Monday that her 3 motion-activated cameras appeared offline. So she checked the most recent recording in each camera from an app on her cell phone. The 3 videos documented the entire heist was carried out by a gray fox. He just takes the cameras. He likes them. Look at that. I'm going to take this one. And I'll take this one. You think you can photograph me? I'm going to take him. She said, I saw him sniffing and messing with camera 1. I went to the second video, which was camera 2. It caught him with camera 1 in his mouth. That's when I knew. Oh my gosh, she said, I think he took all of them. So she shared the video and photos of the intruder fox trotting away on Facebook. Didn't take long for people to react. She tried looking for these cameras. They were a gift and they cost about $200, but she didn't see any sign of them. She thinks they're sitting in a foxhole somewhere. So if I do happen to see them, am I really going to poke my hand in there? No, not going to do that. Next time when she gets new cameras, she says she's going to try to tie them down, make them more secure. She said, I might leave one untied with a tracker to see where he goes. That's so funny. He stole all 3. Look at that with his little feet running around. That is News of the Bizarre. We'll do a little bit of news, and then we'll get to David K. Johnston here on The Mark Thompson Show.
The Mark Thompson Show.
Right. On the Mark Thompson Show, I'm Kim McAllister, and this report is sponsored by Tenuta Vineyards in Livermore. So good. And if you have this week off, what a great place to go out and hang out and sip a little wine. It is, though, a very busy travel day with many Americans catching flights after the Christmas weekend. Others headed out for New Year's destinations now. Things are going pretty smoothly at the nation's airports. FlightAware reporting about 3,100 delays, fewer than 100 cancellations at last check. Israeli forces stepping up airstrikes and shelling along parts of the Gaza Strip. The Palestinian Health Ministry is saying 250 people have been killed in the last 24 hours. During a visit to IDF troops in the war zone yesterday, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu vowed to continue this fight until Hamas is finished. There's a powerful winter storm causing blizzard conditions in parts of the plains and upper Midwest. Forecasters say heavy snow and strong winds, freezing rain, making travel hazardous during this holiday week. Areas of South Dakota, Kansas, Nebraska, Colorado, and Wyoming are now under blizzard warnings. Surprised there's not more flight delays. It's a new study showing patients at privately owned hospitals are more likely to get infections and fall more often. Harvard researchers found that to be the case in more than 200 hospitals bought by private equity firm from non-private equity owners. The study published in the Journal of the American Medical Association also noted reduced staffing levels and high death rates among patients. Again, this is at privately owned hospitals. A classic horror movie set in Washington, D.C. is celebrating its 50th anniversary of its release. Yes, they're celebrating The Exorcist, released on this date back in 1973. It was set in the Georgetown area of D.C., based on a 1971 novel written by William Peter Blatty. I don't know. I guess you have to be a fan of horror movies to understand why we're celebrating The Exorcist. Let's talk about this bug. The San Diego Zoo is displaying the rarest insect in the world. The entomology team from Australia's Melbourne Zoo says the Lord Howe Island stick insect is critically endangered. This creature, also called the tree lobster, is threatened by invasive plants and predators, including rats. Now there's a breeding program at the San Diego Zoo to help sustain populations. You can see the Lord Howe Island stick insect in its Wildlife Explorers Base Camp, the Tree Hollow area. They say it's one of the only times you can see this. So if you're interested, that's where it lives. Again, we mentioned this earlier. This actor, Kamar de los Reyes, has died after a short battle with cancer. The 56-year-old actor died in Los Angeles Sunday. De los Reyes played a gang member turned cop in the soap opera One Life to Live. He was also a voice actor in the video game Call of Duty Black Ops 2. He was in various TV shows and movies. He's survived by his wife and by his 3 sons, age 56. High surf in Southern California. There's a storm hitting the Pacific Northwest, bringing high surf to Southern California. The National Weather Service says the beaches of Ventura and Los Angeles counties could see waves between 10 and 15 feet high this week, so be careful. Orange and San Diego counties could see waves up to 6 feet high. The wave heights are expected to top out at about 7 feet tomorrow. Then the largest waves are expected to roll in Thursday and continue into the weekend. Also, pretty good chance of dangerous rip currents impacting swimmers and surfers, along with some minor coastal flooding. So please be careful if you're headed out to the coast during this holiday week. Last week's flooding is bringing extra police to Hueneme Bay. The community, which was hit especially hard by flooding, has been the target of looters. Port Hueneme police officers in unmarked cars have been keeping an eye on damaged units that were vacated by residents. Several would-be looters have been caught in the act and arrested in the last few days. Police say they'll be conducting both marked and unmarked surveillance of that area for the foreseeable future. It always sucks when people are going through something awful and then somebody comes and does something even almost more awful. I'm Kim McAllister. This is the news on the Mark Thompson Show. This report sponsored by Tenuta Vineyards in Livermore. Picturesque and beautiful, and what a way to ring in the new year, to head out there during this holiday week and get a little bit of a tasting going on. There it is, the flight with the vineyards out the picturesque window. You can walk through the vineyards. And so if it's not rainy and muddy out there, it's a beautiful event for a holiday to take a little time, have a little sip, and take in that beautiful view. And as a bonus for being a Mark Thompson Show listener, you get your 10% off. Call Rich out at the winery, 925-699-4576, and get your 10% off by saying, smash it with your iron rod. It's the phrase that pays, and you get your discount, and away you go with your Mark Thompson, Why Are You Yelling Red? Thank you for supporting the fine people out at Tenuta Vineyard. Again, I'm Kim McAllister. This is the Mark Thompson Show.
The Mark Thompson Show.
This is Mark Thompson.
Hey, which one of you is Mark Thompson?
That's right. It is the Mark Thompson Show, and I am so excited. I look forward to this conversation every single week. David K. Johnston coming to the Mark Thompson Show birthday party today. We don't have Mark Thompson here, but we do have a major player in David K. Johnston, Pulitzer Prize winning author. You have your Mark Thompson Show sweatshirt on. Look at you. You're so cute.
Santa's elves brought that. Very nice for the kind of weather where I live in Rochester, New York this time of year.
Is it warm and cozy?
Oh, it is once you put on the Mark Thompson hoodie, yes.
There you go. It looks so good on you. Lovely.
Yeah.
It looks great. I love
And
to
it's
see
well
that.
made. Unlike lots of things various people send me that are, fall apart, this is clearly well made.
No, it's got the embroidery. It's not just a screening, right? It's got the embroidered Mark Thompson logo. So you're good to go. Yeah.
Yep, it's embroidered.
Nice. All right. Well, let's jump right into politics because and maybe you can help me make heads or tails of this, but President Biden is ordering a strike on Iranian-backed groups because there were 3 military members serving in northern Iraq, and they were injured in a drone strike. And so when I see then that there's some type of retaliatory thing by the United States, I always think, are we getting back into some kind of war or conflict? What's happening?
Well, the response is done under what's known as proportionality. So you kill 3 of our soldiers, we don't go bomb your capital city and kill 1 million people.
Right.
We hit some kind of target. And our military is very sophisticated about this. They know places they want to hit, where and when they want to hit them. You may recall, maybe you're not old enough, Kim, but early in the Bill Clinton administration, one of his cabinet members, who had been a member of Congress, was in a military plane that crashed and killed everybody on board. And the Pentagon revealed at that moment in a briefing images of the mountains around this airport in Europe in a war zone. This was during the war in what my best friend calls Bosnia schizophrenia, Bosnia Herzegovina.
Yeah.
And some of the reporters in the room, the savvy ones, suddenly went, wait a minute, what about these photos? And the Pentagon revealed that they have complete 3D photographic maps of every inch of the planet, or every inch of land on the planet. Unlike, say, World War II, where we didn't know about islands in the Pacific hardly at all.
Yeah.
And one of my father-in-law's jobs in Navy intelligence was to direct submarines to this or that suspected island so they could photograph it through the periscope, and then he and others would draw up a plan for here's where you're going to land the Marines, where you have the greatest likelihood of success and the smallest likelihood of loss.
Yeah.
But we now have all this stuff thoroughly mapped. And so, we are going to continue to face various groups, people backed by Iran and others who are going to harass us and our military. But responses are going to be proportional. And when people attack us, they're not unsophisticated about this. They know that. They know we're not going to just ignore it. We will find some appropriate way. And sometimes we take our time about it so that, you are lulled into a sense of, oh, well, we got away with that one. Boom.
Mm-hmm.
No, you didn't. So I wouldn't worry about that. I would worry more about what we might continue working to do to have fewer people who believe that we're the great Satan.
I'm struck by, though, that if something happened, although why would Iraqi soldiers be in America? But I'm struck by that if something happened here, that another country was in our space in America and did something, we would consider that an act of war, would we not?
Well, we didn't actually quite consider 9/11 to be an act of war. First of all, Congress last declared war on December 7th, 1941. So Congress has the sole power to declare war. And unfortunately, Congress, under both Democrats and Republicans, has continued approving what are called AUMs, authorized use of military force. And I don't think this is a good way to do things. You're going to say you go to war and you get public support for it, or you don't. But even on an attack here in the U.S., somebody gets in and pulls up to the front of a military base or sees a bunch of soldiers or sailors walking down the street, God forbid, and shoots them. We're going to still treat this on the basis of what I think is well established for hundreds, if not thousands of years of diplomatic and military relationships and proportionality.
let's talk about the article you wrote in dcreport.org. And this is about the Trump ballot case. And you call on these three little words that you think are important, but that might not ever even come up in the Supreme Court case. Can you tell me about it?
Well, the 14th Amendment to the Constitution, enacted, proposed in 1866, right after the Civil War ended, and added to the Constitution in 1868, includes a provision to make sure that traitors, people who joined the Confederacy, could not hold elected or appointed positions anywhere in government. That doesn't mean just the federal government, the Union. It also means the state of New York or the state of California. You cannot be the elected dog catcher if you engaged in insurrection or rebellion against the United States. Trump and his lawyers argue that he did no such thing. And they point out that after riling up the crowd, spending days telling people to come to Washington, he did at one point say, be peaceful. It's sort of like, here's a tiny footnote, completely in contrast to everything else. And the case in Colorado and the cases in a number of other states are built on Donald Trump committed insurrection. Well, now the Colorado Supreme Court says that's absolutely true. All 7 members of the court say Donald Trump is an insurrectionist. Right. There was a trial in a Colorado district court that found he was an insurrectionist. Here's the problem. That's creating a higher than necessary barrier, because the 14th Amendment says if you give aid or comfort to a rebellion, you are unqualified to hold office. Well, it is indisputable that Donald Trump gave aid and comfort, because for more than 3 hours, he did not call out anyone in law enforcement or the military to protect the seat of our democracy, the Capitol, as crowds are chanting, hang Mike Pence, Trump's own vice president, the kill Nancy Pelosi. 150 police officers are injured in this matter. Some of them can't work anymore. They're on disability. And there's been this effort to sell the notion that this was just a tourist visit to the White House, nothing abnormal here, which is utter nonsense. So if you just stick to those 3 words, aid or comfort, not aid and comfort, aid or comfort, then Trump doesn't have any arguable case. If you say insurrection or rebellion, he can argue, no, this wasn't insurrection or rebellion. That's the position taken by Alan Dershowitz, the former Harvard law professor. This was not a rebellion. There have been some other people who said, this only went on for about 5 hours. That's not a rebellion. I'm sorry, there are coups that sometimes overthrow governments in 30 minutes. The amount of time is an irrelevancy. This was an insurrection and a rebellion that was designed to keep Donald Trump in office after he clearly, by a large margin, lost the election. But you don't need to address that. All you need to do is show aid or comfort. And the sworn testimony of his own people in the Trump White House, that he sat in the little eating area off the Oval Office with the TV on and said, come in and see this. Oh my, isn't this great? Look at these people fighting for me. This is wonderful what they're doing. That's aid or comfort because he did nothing to stop it for 3 hours. And I think that's a much better argument. I also suspect that the Supreme Court conservative majority really doesn't want to have to deal with this case. Because were they to rule as Donald Trump wants, that anything he does while in office as president is lawful, and Joe Biden tomorrow could say, well, I'm just going to remain as president. Some future president could do that. You would be creating someone who is above the law and who you can do nothing about if there's any misbehavior. That's an absurdity, and the court has already ruled in the Trump subpoena cases, in an opinion by Chief Justice of the United States, John Glover Roberts, that every man's evidence is due to the courts, that no one is outside of the jurisdiction of the courts. And particularly Clarence Thomas, Sam Alito, the 2 most ethically constricted judges, to be polite, and Neil Gorsuch, all are very much that you have to read what's literally the words in the Constitution and apply them as written. So there's no way Trump wins this case. There's no way the court will ever say you're above the law, but they'd really probably like to avoid having to rule on it.
Is that why they said no, lower courts have to go first? Because I was thinking about this, and we're talking right now about the Colorado Supreme Court case and the 14th Amendment clause, where actually it's I'm sorry, I'm getting my cases confused. It is the immunity.
There are two related cases going on
presidential
here.
immunity.
One case,
that's right. But it's the presidential immunity that the Supreme Court said, no, it has to go through the lower courts. Right. But if they know it's going to end up in front of them eventually, why not just deal with it? Is there some type of legality where it has to go through the lower courts?
No, not at all. The Supreme Court can take it directly, and that's why Jack Smith in one of the filings went to them. I think that there's several forces at work here. I mean, we don't know what the justices think. They're not going to tell us till we see their opinions. But I think the court would rather stay out of this, number one. Some of the justices want Donald Trump back into the White House. Clarence Thomas, I believe, should recuse, that is, remove himself from the case, because his wife was part of the insurrection. Yeah. And there's absolute incontrovertible evidence that she was part of this. And now that doesn't mean, that your spouse, you're responsible for anything your spouse does. But the standard is that a reasonably rational, nonpartisan person would see some favoritism. And I think a reasonably rational, nonpartisan person would see in this Clarence Thomas having an interest here before the court. But I mean, the courts don't, it isn't just the Supreme Court. The courts generally don't want to deal with issues like this. The trial judge in Colorado found everything in favor of the plaintiffs' crew, the Citizens for Responsibility and Ethics in Washington, except removing Trump from the ballot. There are about 20 states where we have such cases. I expect that we'll see them in probably all 50 very soon. And some state officials have given statements that they don't flat out say this, but I think make it clear that they believe they make the official appointed determine who's on the ballot. Mm-hmm. And how they will decide, that Trump is on the ballot or isn't on the ballot. There are a lot of people say this is punishment, and I would say that's a nonsense argument. Keeping Trump off the ballot is no different than if my 21-year-old grandson announced, I'm going to run for president. You're not eligible because you're not 35 years old.
Right.
Strict
application of the rules. That's it. Yeah.
There are 3 qualifications in the Constitution itself: 35 years old, 14 years a resident of the country, and a natural-born citizen. And then the 14th Amendment adds this provision so that we don't have a traitor get to the White House. And there were a lot of people in the Civil War, who had been high-level officials of the government. They had gone to West Point if they were military officers. There was a federal judge who was impeached and removed, who used his position as a federal judge to wage war on the United States of America. Of course, he can't hold office. And the same thing here applies to Donald Trump. He is unfit under the Constitution to hold office. So I just think we should focus on the easiest case to make. He gave aid or comfort to insurrectionists.
So I'm struck by how simple that is. It's a rule or it isn't. And here it is. And it's fascinating to me that in the case of, the original Constitution, how the founders seem to have thought of everything, and those things that weren't thought of with situations like, as you say, the wars, we've come up with these amendments along the way, and we've managed to have this document that will allow us right now to save ourselves. But not everyone agrees, even Democrats. And today we saw from Governor Gavin Newsom here in California, he said he doesn't want the Trump California to be taken off of our ballot here in California. He says we don't need that because the voters will come up and save the country from him here in California, that it's not necessary. He says He doesn't want our Secretary of State or our California State Attorney General getting involved. Governor Newsom saying in a statement, in California, we defeat candidates at the polls. Everything else is a political distraction. And he's not the only one.
No,
I've heard people say this, but I don't understand why, if the Constitution, which I have my little pocket Constitution I carry with me everywhere, if the Constitution of the United States has given us the tools to protect ourselves, why we wouldn't use it.
Well, much as I think Trump is not qualified and shouldn't appear on the ballot because he doesn't meet the qualifications, I understand and appreciate this argument, because let's imagine that Trump is denied the ballot, and not denied it through a Supreme Court decision, but denied it in some key states by state officials who, after all, the Constitution says each state is in charge of its elections unless Congress passes a law to the contrary, like the Voting Rights Act, which has been largely gutted. Trump and the people who believe in him will forever argue that, you know, he would have been president but for these this chicanery, this treasonous conduct. That's not good for the country. So, I mean, I can appreciate that argument. The problem is Trump only has to win 6 or 7 states in the middle of the country, and Florida. In Florida, they purge voter rolls, and they do it in a very ham-handed way. If your name on the voter roll is David Johnston, and there are tons of David Johnstons out there, and one of them is a convicted felon, they strike everybody from the ballot.
Whoa.
Who comes from the neighborhoods they don't like. And the most recent Florida case, almost 1 million names were struck from the voter rolls in 2023, the current year, 90% of whom turn out to be Democrats. Or as I tweeted, you know, you have to marvel at how even-handed the Republican officials are in running Florida state government. So election manipulation, denying people access to the polls. And if we don't succeed in blocking interference from the Iranians, the North Koreans, the Russians, and the Chinese, who all want Trump in office for very different reasons, by the way, for totally contradictory reasons, he could get back into the White House. And on his theory that as president he can do anything he wants, he can do what he says. He says, I'm going to be dictator on day one. Oh, just for the one day. Right. The world is full of dictators who give up their dictatorships. The people in the Project 2025 are developing plans. Here is how to round up millions of people and hold them in what amount to concentration camps. Here is how to pass new laws so that journalists can't write anything Donald Trump doesn't want. And he said repeatedly, and there's video of him saying, you shouldn't be allowed to write stories about me that I don't approve. Well, you know, in Stalinist Russia, in China, that's how it works. That's how it works in Iran. It's not how it works here.
No.
And
yet.
You know, so this is a terrible problem Trump has put on us. But he could lose the popular vote by 10 million votes or more and still get back to the White House, depending on which states, because of the Electoral College.
Which, and that's true, but which is kind of only bolsters my point that why wouldn't we then, in as many states as possible, use the Constitution to protect America from this danger to our democracy?
Well, that's why I think that's what we should do. I mean, I think what we should do is that we don't get to pick and choose in the Constitution.
Right.
And the federal government comes along and says, I want to bivouac troops in your home. And it's not a time of war and Congress hasn't authorized it. No, the Third Amendment says you can't do that. So we need to respect the requirements of the Constitution. But as a political argument, not a legal argument, I understand why politicians like Gavin Newsom can say this. And of course, there's no question California will overwhelmingly vote against Donald Trump. I'm not so sure about places like Iowa. You know, I've been watching video interviews by journalists of people, and many of them, they don't know what they're talking about. I don't know how else to put it. There's an iHeartRadio talk show host who just recently said, you know, one of the great things about America is our architecture. I mean, great things we built, like the Statue of Liberty.
What?
No, it's a gift from France.
Yeah.
How did you not know that? The people who make all sorts of assertions that websites like Raw Story make fun of because they are so ridiculously badly informed.
Yeah.
But there's lots of people like this in this country. Lots of them.
True. One of the people that is not like this is Karen Cooper, who writes in, just got David's book at the Mark Thompson Show, The Making of Donald Trump for Christmas. She says, as I read it, I can hear David K. Johnston's voice narrating in my head. That's awesome. I love that,
Thank
Karen.
you, Karen. Thank you very much.
Very cool. Yeah, I can imagine reading anything you write now. I would just be able to hear you talking to me. Let's talk about this this other article I found on DC Report, which is state election units. Can you explain what those are and why this is interesting?
I really can't. I'm
Okay.
sorry about that, but that's not something that I
Not
know
interested?
enough about to feel comfortable talking about.
Yeah, okay. No, this is I guess the Washington Post was looking at these 6 Republican states that were bent on finding widespread voter fraud.
Right.
And so they established these, the election integrity units were established or expanded in 6 states. They only got 47 convictions during this period, they say, in which tens of millions of votes were cast. I found it to be an interesting article. It's on DC Report, so if anyone's interested, go check that out. But let's move.
Fundamentally, these are voter suppression efforts.
Yeah.
And many of the cases where double voting was found were Trump people doing this. But the what's clear, I can't say this, that what's very clear from all the litigation and all of the efforts to find voter fraud is there is no significant voter fraud in this country. There's no voter fraud that rises to a level in a presidential election that would overturn the results. And here's an important thought to keep in mind. Every single Republican who is saying that the 2020 election was stolen, despite zero evidence, numerous cases brought, nobody can find any evidence. Every single one of those people won themselves in the same race by the same voters at the same ballot machines or paper ballots as the race they contend was stolen. So here's an utterly incoherent argument. And it goes to one of the principles I try to teach my students, my law students and journalism students when I talk to them. And that is, step back for a moment always and think, what is going on here? Because often the very most important things are hiding in plain sight right in front of you. And I urge them all to read a short story by Edgar Allan Poe called The Purloined Letter, because it's the classic of the obvious is right in front of you and you're diligently searching and you can't find it because you think it's hidden when it's right there, right in front of you.
Well, here's something that's right in front of us. And I mention it because it's the picture of the show today. And it was yesterday on Christmas Day, a day when, you know, your goodwill toward peace in your heart and goodwill toward man and whatever. And we're supposed to set everything aside and be peaceful and kind to each other. Donald Trump takes to social media and he's saying to his enemies, may they rot in hell, Merry Christmas. He's angry. He goes on this Christmas Day tirade. He doesn't stop with the angry, black-hearted nastiness, even on Christmas Day. That is something that is not hiding. It's right in front of us. This is who this person is.
Yeah, Donald's character is right out there. And he's unusual in the fact that he tells you these sorts of things. He doesn't hide them. And a lot of people go, well, how could it be a crime? I mean, he's telling you what he's doing. Well, you know, I could say to you, let's go rob a bank, Kim. And we get in the car and head to the bank with guns in our pockets. You know, that doesn't mean we didn't go to try to rob the bank. So Donald has no regard for anyone but himself. And regard is a couple of words in our society we need to use a lot more. Prudence. We need people to be prudent. Regard, a synonym for caring. We are, after all, a society of 330 some million people. We are not, as Margaret Thatcher and Milton Friedman said, X million people sharing the same geography. And Donald has no regard for any of that. Everything is about Donald. And I would tell you that Donald is a megalomaniac. I used to say that about him, but he got to be president of the United States, so it's a little hard to claim that he has delusions of grandeur given where he got.
Yeah.
but these are just sort of core problems. We are not doing a good job in this country of passing on to younger generations basic political and cultural information. If there are social studies teachers, I apologize. I know I'm going to upset some of you, but we aren't teaching American government the way they did when I went to school in the 60s in Santa Cruz. You had to pass a test. You had to at least give the textbook version of checks and balances.
We went to the same high school. So did I.
Yeah, but
I remember it well. You had to take U.S. government. You had to pass it as a senior.
I will tell you that some of my children who went to California schools, that's not the case. And I've talked to many young people who don't have this basic understanding. I've had the repeated experience lecturing in high schools. I go to any inner city high school that invites me, I will go to it if I can get to it. I mean, somebody says, come to Texas tomorrow, maybe not, but if it's within driving distance, I go. Yeah. And I'm astonished at the number of students who are overwhelmingly Black and not in great economic circumstances, who don't really know the history of the civil rights movement.
Wow.
And many of whom express, when I ask, well, now, who were the parties in World War II? And, hand goes up. That's when we and the Germans, the Nazis, fought the Russians. Completely, wrong. Absolutely, completely wrong. I love the little memes on the internet that show all the guys going onto the beaches of France where they became hamburger, and just huge numbers of them were killed before they even got out of the waves. That say, this is Antifa 1944. This is fighting fascism 1944. So we're not doing a good job, and this is a very widespread problem. In 1997, we had the 50th anniversary of the British walking out of India, and I went to the dinner here in Rochester. We have a very large segment of the Indian diaspora, and I was late. So instead of sitting with a bunch of muckety-mucks because of my wife, I ended up at the kids' table. Me and 9 20-somethings, American-born, all the children of doctors, chemists, professors, highly educated.
Sure.
And they didn't know the story of how Gandhi got the British to leave. None of them could explain what happened at Amritsar, which is where General Dyer brought up a machine gun and killed 1,000 women, children, and babies. Simply because they were gathering. They were all fleeing, and he kept shooting them. They didn't know about the Salt March and why the Salt March and what was the significance of the Salt March, because it was entirely symbolic. And I was dumbfounded. I was talking not long ago, a couple of years ago now, with a friend of mine who's a retired police sergeant in Rochester. And I said, when I went into the homes of poor Black families in East Palo Alto in the late 60s, there would be a picture on the wall of Martin Luther King, and if they were Catholic, of the Pope, and often President Kennedy. And sometimes it was literally torn out of a newspaper or magazine and put up a little piece of tape or a pin. And I said, the last times I have been in the homes of poor Black families here in New York City and Philadelphia and Atlantic City, I don't see any of those. And my friend Marv said, no, you don't. You don't see them anymore. We are not. That's where I got the idea. He said, we are not transmitting the cultural knowledge we need to young people the way we did. Now, that doesn't mean things were better in the good old days, because they weren't. Yeah. But we do need to pay attention if young people are not learning the actual history of our country, don't understand the nature of fundamental movements, the feminist movement, the civil rights movement, etc. Or you can have people like Donald Trump come along and manipulate people. And we need to be very, very concerned about this. And, when we have schools where teachers are intimidated about what they teach. Yep. You can go on the internet and get a list of, I think it's Orange County, but one of the counties in Florida, the 654 books that has been removed from the library. Yeah. And you look at a couple of books and go, okay, maybe I can see somebody being upset about this, but for 650 of the 654, it's like, what are you talking about? These are the great works of literature. And by the way, if you're going to be upset about things that mention homosexuality or other things that trouble you, then you better ban the Bible.
Right.
boy, you better just start right there, right down to the formula given in the Old Testament for the mix of herbs that may induce an abortion.
Yep.
So we will always have an anti-intellectual movement in the country. We will always have people who favor authoritarian government, but we need to use education to minimize the number of those people. And we're going to find out in less than a year, do we still have our civil rights? They're guaranteed until January 20th of 2025. And after that, whether we're a free people.
Is that true? Now talk about me being uneducated. I thought that was just a given. Once you have those rights, that can't be taken away.
Oh, no. Donald Trump, if he can do anything he wants as president and gets back to the White House, he will do that this time. The first time around, he was incompetent at it. This time around, there are people lined up who agree with him, who they're already vetting people. They're establishing lists of all the civil servants they're going to fire. They're developing a plan for rounding up millions of people and putting them into concentration camps. These are people who are in the country without permission. And often you have families, where dad is illegally here, but mom is an American citizen or mom has a green card. Right. And the kids were born here. They want to eliminate birthright citizenship. If you're born here, you're an American citizen. I mean, they've made very clear what their plans are. Trump says he's going to use the Justice Department to prosecute his enemies. And once you go down that road, people who studied authoritarianism, Professor Timothy Snyder with a Y, Timothy Snyder at Yale, who's written eloquently and simply about this. Sarah Kendzior, former journalist who got a PhD in essentially authoritarian studies, who lives in St. Louis, and others who've written about this. The patterns of authoritarian rule are well known and well understood.
Yeah.
They've been thoroughly researched, and down this road lead firing squads. That's what happens in the end. If you want to understand this and get a little humor out of it, see the film, came out about 3 years ago, The Death of Stalin. It's black comedy, but it's very serious about the moment Stalin died, what Khrushchev and General Zhukov, even the great hero of World War II for the Russians, and others realized was going to happen unless they acted. And it's done as black comedy. Steve Buscemi plays Khrushchev, is just brilliant. But it will show you the process. And just one more little thing. I was on the radio once back around 2016, 17, and my two youngest daughters, who were grown-ups, were in the living room, and they heard me respond to a question, and they were sort of to each other. When I got off the radio, I said, "I'm sorry, what was that about?" They said, "Did you get asked, Dad, if you get shot if Trump starts a revolution against the Constitution?" And I said, "Yeah, in the second round." And they both erupted in laughter. And I said, "What's so funny?" And they say, "Dad, you always say having 8 kids shows you're an incurable optimist. You think the second round?" So, but seriously, that's where we will go. It'll be the end of freedom in America.
Yeah.
We will live in a fascist state. We will have a crazy person with no historical concepts in the White House. And he will have a Supreme Court majority that either will be totally unprincipled or will be ineffective in blocking him because the Supreme Court can just issue orders. It can't enforce them.
Well, you're painting a great picture of what's ahead in 2024. Can't wait for the new year, David K. Johnston. Suddenly, I'm not quite filled with the optimism I had coming into the conversation.
Yes, well, hopefully a year from now, we'll be celebrating that the American people saved their democracy. But, you don't know what's going to happen in the future until it happens.
It's never been more important. And so what can people do? I mean, in the past, I've joined groups of people writing postcards to swing states. You can go to a phone bank and start making phone calls, but nobody wants to talk to you. Usually, what do you do? I mean, how do you take it? How do you look at what you just said? And
if you can, I'm sorry.
No, and feel it, feel that there's danger ahead and that you want to help make it so that Trump doesn't get back in there and that America's safe. Sometimes it feels like there's nothing you can do and you're hopeless.
I think there's a lot of things you can do. First of all, if you're in a state that's going to definitely vote Trump down, California, New York, Massachusetts, New Jersey, and you can afford to do it, arrange hook up with people like the indivisible groups. There are hundreds of them across the country, to go to a place where the vote results may go either way, particularly where they may go either way in a congressional district as well as the state vote that will result in an electoral college decision. And offer to go there several days before the election. You have to go with 2 of you, but you can drive people to the polls who may have difficulty getting to the polls. You can volunteer if you can't afford to go to a place for phone banks. People, nothing sells like word of mouth. People will tell you, and whether they're selling books or movies or records, word of mouth, and then a personal touch. There are a number of people who got elected in congressional districts. Nobody thought somebody with their views could be elected because they spent 2 or 3 years knocking on as many doors as they could. Every minute they weren't working, they were out banging on doors and talking to people. So I think there's a lot that we can do, and we need to make sure that there are plenty of lawyers working on election day over people who want to file a provisional ballot. We don't want a repeat of things like Dodge City, Kansas, where in the Old West, there's a big signs on the edge of town everywhere. You had to go to the sheriff and turn in your guns. You weren't allowed to carry them. And they moved the one polling place in town outside the town and a mile's walk beyond the bus route, which was clearly designed to make sure Hispanics who were American citizens couldn't vote. I think there's a lot of things that people can do to organize. It is remarkable that the Democrats, who historically were the party of unions and working people, have lost a lot of organizing skills, and the Republicans have picked a lot of them up.
Yeah.
And so the Democrats really need to work on learning organizing skills. They need to pay attention to places like, there's a nonprofit in Boston called the Right Question Project. If you type that into a Google or a Bing internet search, you'll turn it up right away, the Right Question. And they teach people how to frame questions to government officials and how to talk to people. People need to not be quiet about this. They need to step forward. And we also need to counter this narrative that the economy is the worst economy in 50 years that I just heard from somebody on the right 2 days before Christmas. Worst economy in 50. What are you talking about? The stock market is at record highs. Trump said there would be a collapse, and now he says, well, there will be eventually. Well, yeah, markets go up and down, but the fact is we have a record high. We have the lowest unemployment in about 50 years, and it's continued now for almost 2 years under Biden. The inflation rate for the last 6 months is 2%. Now, people say, wait a minute, I'm still paying more than I think I should have to pay for eggs. Yeah, there was an increase in prices, but it's the rate of increase since then has tailored back down to the Fed's preferred measure of 2%. You want to have a little bit of inflation so that there's price movement. We need to talk about the fact that corporate profits, which are all reported by the companies, they're up 75 times as much as wages are. I think that's the right number. I apologize if I used the wrong metric there, but I think that's the rate is 75 times increased wages. Real wages are rising, particularly for people in the bottom half of the labor market. And so actually we have a terrific economy overall, and yet lots of people are, oh, this is absolutely terrible, because that's what the mendacious, lying news organizations they're listening to are telling them. And let me leave you with one little funny thing I just put on my Twitter and Threads today, and that is Fox has been nominated for a new award.
What is this?
George Integrity in Journalism Award.
Oh, no. That's not journalism. No. No, I'm sorry. Who nominated for that award?
Oh,
No
it's just a
one.
made up meme.
Yeah,
The
it's
Fox has
ridiculous.
been,
Yeah.
nominated for the George Santos Honesty and
George
Integrity
Santos Award.
Journalism
I missed that for the George Santos part.
Yeah.
David K. Johnston, I could talk to you all day. Thank you for staying a little late to tell us about it. I'm gonna ding you for, I think it was mendacious. So that was a great word you
a good
brought
word
out.
people need to use more often.
Yes, it is. Happy New Year to you. We'll see you in 2024. Thank you for being here.
All right. Take care. Bye, folks.
Bye. David K. Johnston, everybody, our Pulitzer Prize-winning, award-winning investigative journalist. We're lucky to have him here on the Mark Thompson Show every Tuesday. All right, let's do a little bit more news. Why don't we, Tony? Or do you want to just go ahead and get to our animal segment?
Let's go straight to animals, I guess, right?
Straight to
We
animals.
got 15 minutes.
Straight to
What do you, I know. Do we have enough? All right.
Yeah, we've got
animals.
enough.
It is.
Let's do it.
All right.
Yeah.
Give me a second here.
Yeah. Okay.
Now, a word about animals on the Mark Thompson Show.
I love it. Well, I saw this story about this orca madness happening off the Southern California coast. I did not know that orcas would go after dolphins in this way. I guess it makes sense, but they're hunting. These are Eastern tropical Pacific orcas. They've been nurturing their calves and hunting dolphins as far north as Malibu since they first showed up off the coast of Southern California a couple of weeks ago. They have captured footage over the weekend of an orca whale chasing a dolphin and then dining on the fresh kill. You can see it chasing the dolphin in that picture Tony has up. They say killer whale madness again today off Laguna Beach. What other words can we say besides this amount of activity is unprecedented? This from a tour company posting on social media. They say these orcas seem to have found new hunting ground, and it's no telling how long they might stay at this point. So a lot of people now booking these whale watching excursions off the coast of Southern California because all the orca activity going on here. So really interesting. Another story that caught my eye was this beluga whale who's stuck at the mall. Yeah, it's really sad. And this one breaks my heart. This is a tank that is located at the at a mall, at the South Korean mega mall. It's got artificial rocks, concrete walls, and it's been home to this beluga whale, this female beluga whale, for a decade. This whale, believed to be about 2 years old, when she was captured by boats in Russian waters in 2013 and sold to the Lotte World Aquarium, which is the largest in Seoul. She was named Bella. She was with 2 other orcas. They have since died, and they formed part of the popular Arctic attraction. This is a 1,224 ton tank. It's 24 feet deep, and you can see it here. That's not big enough for a beluga whale. I mean, is it big enough to house her? Yes. Is it big enough for her to have joy in life? No. But there she is, and she gets to take selfies with visitors in the mall, because that's what whales are for, right? Sometimes she swims up to the window. Now she's depressed because the 2 other whales that were beluga whales that were with her have passed away. And so she's supposed to be released. And now I guess for the last year, people are wondering when this is going to happen. More than 4 years after they said she was going to be released, she remains on display at this mall in South Korea. They don't know when they're going to release her. But the exhibit is still open and no release date has been made public. And so there she is at the mall. What a travesty. Horrible. The whale continues to show signs of stereotypical stress behavior and circles around the tank without much meaning. It's sad. It's really sad. So that's the story of Bella the beluga whale. And that is your animal segment here on the Mark Thompson Show.
Join the flock again next time for a word about animals on the Mark Thompson Show.
Well, I have the best stories from the sky, but I don't think we have time for all of it, Tony. I think we're going to have to wait for it for tomorrow. But I do want to thank Harry, who's popped in on Mark Thompson's birthday. It's Maker's Mark Day. How did Mark arrange that? Is it really Maker's Mark Day? That's awesome. Thanks again
I'll
to
find out.
Cindy for a $5 contribution. Thanks, Tony. Thank you for being here as well. Thanks for the contributions, everyone. We appreciate that. I'm sure Mark does as well. It'll be a nice for him to see on his birthday. Tomorrow we have John Rothman coming up on the show, so that's going to be exciting. Don't forget, it is a Spare the Air Day all across California. Southern California, Northern California, it doesn't matter. You can't light a fire in the fireplace. Nope. I don't know if anybody has any ideas. We just my thoughts are circling after the discussion with David K. Johnston about how we can organize and what can be done. But I wonder how here on the Mark Thompson Show we can organize. So if anybody has any thoughts, please email me, kim@theafterparty.live. And we have the after party coming up next. So I hope you'll join us for that. Tony, thank you for being here.
Yeah,
I forgot to ask you, how was your holiday? How was your Christmas?
It was nice. Just spent it with family. The usual. Just mellow.
You cook them up a pizza in your pizza oven?
No, I was at their house, so I didn't have to do any work.
All right.
You know, my family's still Italian, so it's like, here's lasagna for Christmas.
Oh, is that what you guys have on Christmas?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Very cool. Well, merry belated Christmas to you. Any big plans for the new year?
I don't know. We'll see. I don't know. I'm old. It doesn't matter.
I know. It's kind of not as fun anymore. Have you been a New Year's partier, or are you just kind of like stay away from the madness kind of guy?
Well, you always kind of want to avoid amateur hour, right? So it's better just to be at friend's house. Like, I don't need to do the bar scene because, nah, it's cool. Again, it's amateur hour. It's like, I'd either want to drive or hit the bar. I mean, I did plenty of the bar scene on regular nights. I didn't need New Year's to do bars, you know?
Well, after the conversation with David K. Johnston, now I don't think I want to be celebrating 2024 at all.
Oh, someone had a great comment. I should have grabbed it. I didn't highlight it. Damn it. He's like, I don't want to, I haven't agreed to 2024's terms and services yet or something like that. So he wrote.
I haven't either. I want to see what I'm getting.
Whoever wrote that, I'm sorry, I can't find it right now, but that was good in chat.
Absolutely not. All right. Well, let's fire up the music. We'll end it a little bit early, but I do want to thank everyone for being here. Thanks for helping us celebrate Mark Thompson. Of course, he'll be back at the beginning of the new year. We're dark for the New Year's Day, the 1st, but Mark will be back on the 2nd. Until then, for the next couple of days, you can hear him on KFI in Los Angeles. So that's a good thing. If you're missing Mark Thompson, you can always catch him here on KFI. But thank you for being here, and I hope you'll join us tomorrow. We have John Rothman on the show, and we may have another Mark Thompson interview to roll for you as well. So thanks for hanging out with us here on the Mark Thompson Show, and I hope you have a really great rest of your day. And if you're taking this holiday week off, do enjoy it as well.
Exactly.
A lot of people get to kick it. As a matter of fact, I have a
Must
whole
be
house
nice.
full of people here. They're on winter break. I told them don't play any music while I'm doing the Mark Thompson Show. So far, I haven't heard flutes, bassoons, or pianos fire up at my house, so we're good to go. All right, everybody.
Stevens for the Mark Thompson Show. Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone. We'll see you tomorrow on the Mark Thompson Show.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.